What's up everyone, Lance Hedrick here, and today we're going to look at espresso profiling. Now, you can profile in different ways. You can temperature profile, pressure profile, flow profile, but they're all different ways of trying to enhance your cup of coffee. So, changing variables throughout the extraction process in order to create a better beverage for your palate, right? So today what we're going to look at is pressure profiling on a manual machine. I'm using the Flair Pro 2 today. All right, so to begin, I'm going to kind of talk about the elephant in the room. I actually don't really love the term pressure profiling, and it's because, to me, it's synonymous with flow profiling. And why do I say that? You're like, well, you have direct pressure here, right? Well, it's because you can't get pressure without input flow times resistance. So if we didn't have a puck here and I put water in the chamber and pushed, there'd be no resistance, we wouldn't gain any pressure. I put coffee in there at a French press grind setting, I push, I'll get a little resistance, but it's not gonna go to 9 bar. There's no way I can hit 9 bar with French press coarseness. You go finer and finer and finer, and your ability to go higher in pressure increases. So really, our arms are just emulating a pump from a commercial machine. So all we're really doing on this is flow profiling. So I think that might, if you can kind of think in those terms, it might help you kind of understand what we're doing here. Though we are going based off of a manometer and we're looking at the pressure gauge itself, what we're really doing is manipulating the flow, which directly correlates to the raise and lowering of pressure, okay? The hiring and lowering of pressure. All right, so let's go ahead and break down the different ways you can affect your profile using flow. You can do something like a bloom, which is related to pre-infusion. I don't really like blooming on something like this because you can't keep the water source heated. So we're not really going to discuss much about the bloom, but essentially a bloom does emulate the blooming in a pour over, right? So you're releasing the CO2 and allowing the grounds to be fully saturated in order to be more efficient with diffusion going forward. But what we will look at is pre-infusion. Pre-infusion is literally the step before infusion. So what we're doing is we're blasting the bed, the puck, with water to fully saturate, and we're doing that at a lower flow rate, a lower pressure, so that we're not starting the extraction in the sense that we're not getting liquid really coming out of the cup, but we're doing a low, slow fill of that puck to expand it, to allow the water to fully saturate and to prime it for the next step, which is infusion. This is when we ramp up to whatever pressure we're going for. Now, I prefer for lighter roasted coffees, I prefer a little less pressure for the most part, so 6, 7, 8 bars. So the reason for that is because the puck integrity is lessened on lighter roasted coffees. It's a higher puck integrity with darker roasts, so you may want to go up to 9, maybe even 10 bar with a darker roasted coffee. Today I'm using medium light type of roast, so I am going to go up to around that 8 or 9-ish bar, the 8 at 9-ish bar area. But keep in mind that this is completely up to you and your flavor profile, your flavor preference. Do not feel like you are grounded into one specific area of pressure. You can kind of play around, break the rules, do whatever you want. But that's the infusion part, is when we're really hitting that extraction. And then we have what's called taper. Now, tapering is this movement that we can do, which is lessening the pressure throughout the extraction so that the flow slows down as the puck is eroding. Now, what do I mean? Well, this is going to be shocking for some of you, but when we pull espresso, when we take coffee, we put it here and we put water through it, we get coffee in the cup, right? So we're taking coffee from the puck and we're putting coffee in the cup. So if there's coffee in the cup, that means there's some coffee that's gone from the puck. And so that means our original mass is no longer there. We now have a lessened mass. And so resistance goes down as the mass goes down, right? Simple mathematics. So as our mass is going down, the resistance is going down, the pressure is going to go down unless we decide to push more water through, which means we're going to have to push harder in order to maintain a high pressure. So what we have to realize is every commercial machine, every home machine, every semi-automatic, every non-manual machine has a built-in profile. 9-bar machines, they want to ramp up to 9 and hold 9. And so what it has is it has a built-in water debit, or it has a built-in amount of water that comes out in a certain time frame that allows for that pressure to build that high. And what occurs is it holds that 9 bar the whole way, unless you have too coarse of a grind setting, and then you're gonna have the wobbly splurts going out. It's gonna force you to tighten your grind more and more until you have 9 bar comfortably throughout the duration of the shot. This is not ideal though. In fact, I would say and so would a lot of other people, that it's one of the worst things to happen in the history of espresso. We had these perfectly nice lever shots that Gaja allowed us to have with 9-bar pressure that would taper off near the end just naturally because you felt that puck eroding. And then these 9-bar pump machines with Vehement in the 60s came through and it held that 9-bar the whole way because that's how technology was then, and we've kept it to today. But what we can do with these levers is we can taper off the pressure near the end as that puck is eroding so that we're lessening the flow rate through the puck, which disallows as many channels as you typically would get with a high pressure shot to the end. So what we're doing near the end there is we're lessening the flow through the puck, which lessens the pressure, which will allow us to have less bitters and a cleaner finish. So we have pre-infusion, infusion, and tapering that we can observe during this. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you that, and I'm gonna show you my routine on how I'm gonna preheat this vessel. So I have my kettle here boiling. I'm gonna take a funnel from a stag. You can take some sort of dripper or anything that you like. I'm gonna place it right there so that there's a holder for my water chamber. I'm gonna flip this so that the chamber that holds the water is gonna heat using that steam, and I'm gonna allow the basket to get some of that heat as well. But I'm not gonna let that heat up too much because it's not super necessary since we're gonna lose a lot of heat as we're preparing the puck anyway. I just don't want it to be cold. So, as that's heating, I'm gonna get my coffee ground up, and when you see me here in a second, it'll be ground and ready to go. All right, I've dosed the coffee, I've distributed it. It's in my basket. Little tap there, little tap here. Whoop. I'm gonna place the screen. There we go, now it's flush on there. I'm gonna take off this chamber as it's been heating over that steaming water. So I'm gonna take a rag so that I don't burn myself. I'm gonna take this off, flip off the cap. I'm gonna put this right there. Put it in its place. Now I'm gonna take out my little funnel, replace the top. Now I'm gonna get the water right off the boil. I'm gonna pour that in while this water chamber is still super hot from all that steam exposure it had just a second ago. All right, we got it full. Place the manometer. There we are. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do that lower pressured pre-infusion, and I'm gonna start my timer. So I've got that low pressure, just slowly dripping out. I'm gonna let this go till 12 seconds. We have about a gram in the cup, and there we go. Now I'm gonna ramp up the pressure. So as you see down here, we already have it at that stream in the middle, and I'm holding it there until I see the speed really quicken up. Now as it's quickening up, I'm slowly releasing the pressure, less and less, and I'm tapering off right here. I'm gonna continue tapering down 5 bars, down to 4 bars, to 3, and 2, and 1. And then my final shot weight is gonna be 40 grams. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna place this under here to catch the dribbles. So I've got my shot, I did 15 grams in, and I did that on a grind setting of about 24 on the niche, 0 grinder. I brought out 40 grams out. So I did 15 grams of coffee to 40 grams of water. But if you notice, I did pre-infusion for 12 seconds where I brought it up just to about 2 bar, and I allowed that bed to saturate. And then I infused up to 9 bar, and I oscillate between 8 and 9. And then I slowly started to taper off as I saw the stream start to widen. And that was because I wanted to disallow more channels to occur. The whole idea of espresso extraction is to fight channels, right? So then I allowed that tapering to occur near the end until I hit my goal weight of 40. I wanted almost a 1 to 3. That is kind of a sweet spot for me when I'm profiling because I'm able to get that high extraction. I'm able to curb some of those bitters that happen if I were to continue going longer with this fine of a grind setting. So we're gonna give it a little stir, we're gonna give it a little taste and see how it is. In the background, Harry Styles' Strawberries in the Summer Evening is playing, and let me tell you, dead on for this. This is full of strawberries, really nice natural burriti, delicious coffee. Pulled really well on this Flair Pro 2. The last 2 things I do want to mention before concluding is 1, you can replicate any of these profiles you see online, like the one that you saw a little video of here. That was me replicating what I did on this espresso shot. You can replicate those with your manual profiler or with your manual lever machine. if you have 2 of 3 pieces of information, you need to know either the pressure with the input flow or the pressure with the output flow. Okay, so once you have these 2 sources of information, you're going to be able to replicate what you see online from people with different machines that are posting graphs of how they're pulling their shots. If you have those, you can replicate what you're seeing with your machine. Now, of course, you're going to need to know your pressure, so I recommend getting the Smart Espresso Profiler app and connecting it to a Bluetooth scale. Then you'll have your pressure and your output flow, and you're going to be able to replicate these different types of extractions. The final thing I want to say is in regard to the Flair 58. Now, some of you might be trying to pull some of these shots with the Flair 58, which is an incredible idea. I love my Flair 58. But what you need to know about that is the depth of the bed is much different than the depth of the bed here. The puck depth on the Flair Pro 2 is deeper than on the shallow Flair 58 counterpart. So what happens with that shallow puck depth is you're going to need a much finer grind to provide that resistance to raise the pressure. So you're going to need a grinder that can go much finer than what you do with the Flair Pro 2. So for instance, on a niche, I have to live in the 10 and below range, whereas for the Pro 2, I'm living in the 20 to 25 range. Okay? So because of the more shallow puck depth, you're going to have a much finer grind setting in order to produce the resistance to raise pressure. So keep that in mind as you're playing with profiling. You can do all of the things I did here on your 58 or your Neo or whatever machine that you have. You'll just need some, in order to replicate exactly what I'm doing here, you will need something to be able to measure your output flow, which is simple if you have a Bluetooth scale in the Smart Espresso Profiler app. Otherwise, you can play with your grind settings, and you can replicate this just by knowing the pressures I was using, which is 2 bar for the pre-infusion, ramping up to 9 bar, and then slowly cascading down until 40 seconds, or however long it takes for something that you enjoy. But remember those things: pre-infuse, infuse, and tapering. This is a little primer for espresso profiling. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you make some tasty bevies with your Flair manual machine. And here's a little cheers from me to you, sipping on some delicious fresh crop natural Ethiopia. Delicious. Cheers, guys.